Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. Zolgad at the X, where I have just watched the Wild defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets in their opener 3-2. AJ Fredrickson producing, co-hosting as always. He is at his home base where he just watched the game as well. Plenty to talk about. A lot, well, some real good, some, but you know what? It's game one, and they got 2 points. But before we do, Grill Masters, I want to talk to you because the newest member of the Score North family, as far as people that we are talking about, and if you like to grill, listen closely. The folks from Stoke Barbecue Pellets, a company based here right in our great state, operated in our state. Stoked is the premium pellet that cooks anything you throw on the grill or smoker to delicious perfection. And here's the best part. You can find all Stoke products at all 22 Fratelloni's hardware and garden stores. That's right, all 22, like an age, all 22. Coaches watch it. Well, Fratelloni's has it at all of their 22 locations. Perfect for pellet grills and pellet smokers, and ideal for all kinds of grills as well. Find Stoke Barbecue Pellets, 50-count fire starter buckets, 4-count fire starter bags, barbecue caddies. I actually have one now. They're great. Again, find this all at the 22 Fratelloni's hardware and garden stores location. Don't go with the big guys. Go with the Minnesota-based company. Go with Stoked. And Wild fans might be stoked about the fact, AJ Fredrickson, that they came away with a 3-2 win. I've got a bunch of stuff, but I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this game. I thought it would be more of an emotional night. They did do a tribute to Johnny Gaudreau and his brother beforehand. It wasn't quite as emotional as I thought it might be as far as the game itself. But what were your thoughts from tonight's tilt?
Here's what I would say. I'm very happy with the win. I did expect a little bit more, but I will chalk it up to first game of the season.
Yeah.
There's a lot of first game of the season type of takeaways, and I'm sure there's a lot of, as many good things as we can dive into. There's a lot of bad things too. Yep. Zone entry is something they're gonna have to work on. The penalty kill still looks like there's some issues that need to be ironed out. The power play, however, on the other hand, finger licking good. I mean, KFC like that was fantastic to watch. Pure electricity in the third period. Matt Boldy, I think, picked up where all of us expected him to. There's still some other things, and I think the two elephants in the room that we have been talking about all off season, Filip Gustavsson, I think looked fantastic tonight. Shaky at times, but also more so bailed out his team when they left him all alone. The defense, a lot of steady feet, a lot of stone feet back there at times. Yeah. And Marcus Johansson, 2 points, and those weren't the kind of like, the secondary, I'm on the ice and I touched the puck. No, he was creating, he was generating. He got to some dirty areas at times. We still saw a couple instances where he maybe just kind of gave up on a few plays, but a lot of good steps in the right direction. Overall, for a opening night win, I think if they face a better team, they probably don't come away with 2 points, maybe 1 or 0. But for game one against the Columbus Blue Jackets, there's a lot of good stuff to take away, and it's still a win at the end of the night.
Yes, that is very true. So let's go to my breakdown is this. The first period was sort of disjointed and sloppy on both sides. I don't know where the Wild went for the majority of the second period. Now, I know that they did score a goal, correct? Yes. Eriksson Ek scored a goal, but I don't know where the team was for the majority of that period. I thought that they played, for the most part, really poorly. Third period, improved again. Let's go to goaltending. Filip Gustavsson was outstanding. And now, excuse me, here's what I have to wonder. Is this, so the Wild currently has 3 goaltenders. Marc-Andre Fleury, in his last year, about to turn 40, is going nowhere. Jesper Wallstedt was just signed to a contract. I know it doesn't kick in until a 2-year contract. It doesn't kick in until next year, but he's going to play. Is this Filip Gustafsson's net right now, or is this a early season showcase? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the guy that you saw tonight might get you a little something. I'm not saying get you a ton, but he might get you a little something. I point you again to a team that we've been talking about, AJ Fredrickson, for quite some time now. The Vancouver Canucks. Don't know if you saw last night, jumped off to a big lead against the Calgary Flames. Mm-hmm. blew the entire lead. Actually tied the score late on a Quinn Hughes effort and pass to JT Miller that was otherworldly, and then lost. Calgary won in OT, and if you saw the goaltending, it was shaky. So I gotta wonder, because I don't think you're going to carry 3 goaltenders. I just don't. It's not workable. It's not doable. You can't play them. I mean, does Fleury need to play a ton? I don't know, but he's here and he needs to play. Wallstedt, Bill Guerin today, I heard him on the flagship station talking about this, and he made it pretty clear that there might be times if Wallstedt's not playing that he'll be sent down to play, but he'll be right back up. They clearly want the Zolgad plan, which is, and I don't blame them, they want Wallstedt around the Flower. And that makes perfect sense, right? So I guess my question is what we saw tonight, which was a hell of a game by Gus, is that something that we're going to now see Gus more, or are we going to see Gus more now for the short term so he can be moved? Now, I do have one stat about opening night a year ago and tonight just to sort of tie things together, okay?
Absolutely.
A year ago, the eventual Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers visited the X on opening night, and Filip Gustavsson shut them out 2-0, and he made 41 saves and was brilliant. Tonight, I've got him on, 30 saves in a 3-2 win. Played really well, but the point is, a year ago he got off to a great game one, and I mean it's game one. You can't get too excited about what you saw, good or bad. But that's my first question. And by the way, Preston, the Lynx game, I was watching it here. The finish, phenomenal. To get out of that game with a win on the road in the finals, I don't care what your league is. Oh my God, it was fantastic. But anyway, so I do have questions about what the intentions are here with Gustavsson. The other thing is, let's talk about a guy that you referenced who I thought was brilliant tonight, Matthew Boldy. I mean, there's not the first goal, the no-look goal, where he literally, you know what it looked like? It looked like that play that Matthew Stafford, the Rams quarterback, has developed, where he literally will not look at the receiver and throw the ball, and the D-backs are like, what the hell? That goal looked like that. He is not looking at the goal. And then he had a couple of assists. I thought he applied himself the entire game. I know it's one game, but I thought he applied, like this is what he can do. This is what he could do, and he did it last year at times, so I'm not saying he didn't. He didn't do it all the time. But that made me about as excited as when I predicted that I think he's going to score 35 or more goals. That's the player I was talking about. I thought Boldy's game was just so on point.
Oh my God, he was amazing. I'll go back to your first question though first, because I want to really rave and review Matt Boldy's game. But Jackson here mentions, doesn't Vancouver have Demko? I know that they have injury, like there's some sort of injury that is, it seems as just like has lingered all off season.
It's very rare, and they don't know. I can find it, but I heard a description of it on an NHL Network radio. It's some type of very rare, and they're having real problems.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if he's out for a long time.
That's the thing about it is, I think the first like maybe 10 or so starts for Gus, I think is like a showcase, but also they're very much sitting there right behind the display window. Like, do we want to take him off the shelf? Do we want to keep him? Like, it's a garage sale, but maybe the chair that you're sitting in, maybe it's going to go back in the house. It's a tough predicament because I think you really have to measure up how good the start is for the team. Because if the team looks bad in front of him, but he's playing well, that doesn't really still help you as much. Like, he can only do so much for you, and who knows when that eventually stops, because we've seen that in seasons past.
Yep.
But you also don't want to stifle anything with Jesper Wallstedt. You have Marc-Andre Fleury for this season. You really don't know, and you expect that that's probably it. You don't want to waste that opportunity. It's a long season. I'm not saying he has to be with him conjoined at the hip here from game 1 through 82, right. But if you get to game 30 and it seems like he's just really not getting that opportunity to learn and be mentored by Marc-Andre Fleury, that's an issue. So who knows how willing and how like eager they are after maybe a couple really solid starts. If he continues this play up, it's going to make it very interesting, because I think you're going to have to get an offer that kind of just really blows away Bill Guerin. And frankly, I think there's going to be some teams that maybe are willing to do that earlier in the season rather than in the deadline. So we'll have to see about that. Matt Boldy, though, was tremendous. That goal that you were talking about, he doesn't look at the net. He still fires. That takes confidence. You don't just throw one on net for throwing it on net's sake. It was, he recognized he had the space. He kind of had the peripherals of, I know where the goalie's sitting. Where can I shoot it at? And, he's not pinpointing there. He's still taking a little bit of a guess. So there's some luck involved, but boy, it takes confidence in your own ability to make that play happen. And the fact that he drilled one for that opening goal, I mean, this guy comes in and for 3 points, he probably could have had 4 or 5. He had that one that kind of bounced on his stick on, I want to say, a power play. I think second period, he could have had another one. I think he set up.
Oh, yeah. It was a one-timer that he couldn't get the shot off.
Yes.
It was right in front of me, and I was going nuts. I couldn't see it bounce well from the press box, but it was a beautiful tape-to-tape pass by Kaprizov.
Yes.
But, yeah, if it bounced. I will say this, and I don't know if this got talked about on the telecast, was something up with the ice? I felt some guys were falling a little bit, and the puck was bouncing at times. Now, it was a warm day outside. That being said, there have certainly been warm days before that I haven't thought that the ice was bad, and I don't know that it was bad, but I did see some guys fall, and I don't know. The ice in here, I think, is ordinarily really good, so it was a little bit odd, but yeah, that was a gorgeous play, a gorgeous pass, and in fact, I got that came on to your point, a power play. Boy, it's tempting to put 97 and 12 together at times. I just think they play. I know Zucchi's friends with Krill, and I know that they have good chemistry. I just feel like there's something special. And I mean, I would, if the Wild, and this is going to be the case, probably soon, if the Wild's down in the third period, I would form a line that has Kaprizov and Boldy together age in a heartbeat, because I think those two just have a great, they're just so high end, and they're both young.
Yeah, and
relatively.
Yeah, absolutely. The chemistry that we have seen from Zuccarello and Kaprizov. Look at the kind of no look backhand feed to the trailing Zuccarello that set him up. Not even on his goal. You see what they do other times in the game, but that one he got stonewalled by Merzlikins. But I don't think that outweighs the sheer talent that they both kind of push each other to raise to.
Right.
Having those guys on opposite wings, for any center that's going to be between them, whether it's Marco Rossi, Joel Eriksson Ek, or even, because we've seen it in the preseason and last season at times as well, Ryan Hartman, it makes that player so much better as well. Both those guys have that drive to shoot, and that's the key there. Is obviously Zuccarello scored tonight, and maybe this is the year of shooting for Matt Zuccarello. Maybe he's turning a new leaf with his old age. He's like, you know what? I'm sick of the passing. I'm sick of assists. I want to score for once. Maybe that's the case, but
no.
Boldy and Kaprizov on a line together. That I think is going to be your 10 minutes left in the third. Hey, John, we're down a goal. What do you want to do?
Right.
Get that line out there. Make that a thing. Get them out there, and they're like, you're cutting minutes for the third and fourth lines, because they're going to be getting a lot more minutes. That's a line that's going to be almost automatic, I feel like, at times late in the season.
So to explore Boldy's line more, Eriksson Ek, to your point, Johansson, who, it was hilarious. There was about 6:20 left in the first period, and he fanned a shot off a pass from Boldy, and I thought, yeah, here we go again. But you're right. He had a nice game. You know what? I think, beyond his points, I think the play that impressed me the most was the third period partial breakaway. He didn't get a breakaway, but he drove to the net and was, I don't know if he was tripped, he was jostled. Columbus very good at jostling guys on partial breakaways. And he went to the net, though, strong, and got some type of shot off. This is what you want. And look, would I be tempted to put Ogren, who's here, with those two, absolutely. But that line played well. And in all, AJ, Boldy had 3 shots on goal. Eriksson Ek had 3 shots on goal. And that line accounted for both of the even strength goals that the Wild scored. The third one was on a power play. And Johansson had just the one, but that's 7 shots. Boldy a +2, Eriksson Ek a +2, Johansson a +2. So that second line was basically your meal ticket tonight and played a great game. And if Johansson's going to go along for the ride, my opinion, well, I'll always doubt him, but my opinion of him will be improved because I thought that line was, I don't even think it was close. That line was easily your best line consistently tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And to your point, as he pops on the post-game broadcast here, talking post-game, I had him kind of under a microscope today. So the one play that I think really stuck out, I want to say it was first period. I thought he had a couple of really good instances of getting hard to the net, driving to the net. He had that wraparound opportunity where I think that's a good display of his skating and that we keep hearing about. And he went to the dirty area. He followed through. He lost the puck on the shot, but then still went and got it back. He had one where it was a kind of top of the zone. I want to say maybe it was second period actually, but kind of a bouncing puck, and he just kind of stopped and was like, "Oh, okay, there it goes. Oh, now let's go play defense." That was one instance, and that's really the only one I can remember because everything else from him tonight was, I mean, it was above average. It was very impressive from especially what I feel like we've grown used to night in and night out from him last year. This is a refreshing Marcus Johansson. So, like I said, this is a first game of the season type of game. There was a lot that I think you can probably nitpick and say they need to work on. Johansson probably included in that. For the most part, though, he did look the part. And this is the guy that I think Bill Guerin, John Hines, they put him on that second line saying, hey, you it's your spot to lose, essentially.
Right.
He looks like he doesn't want to be a press box type of guy. He looks like he doesn't want to have you, myself, other people in the media, fans getting on his case throughout the season. If he plays like this, I think he's going to have a much easier ride for the next 81 games.
Absolutely. Yep. Let's talk special teams next. But before we do that, I want to invite you folks to the second ever Purple Daily Unplugged, which will be at Padres Brewing. Of course, that is the official beer of the Sports Dad. We did one of these a couple of months ago. I think it was right before the season started, and it is fun. Now, it's unplugged, so it's a podcast, but it's not live as far as the actual podcast distribution goes. It is live at the event. We take questions. We talk about the Vikings. Certainly there's plenty to talk about. This will be the day after, by the way, the Lions game. So hopefully we are talking about a team that just won a huge game and is 6-0. The date, Monday, October 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. It is a ticketed event, but you don't have to pay. So you must register to attend the event, but you do not have to pay. Age, if you could look it up, it is scorenorth.com. It might be, I think it's /event, scorenorth.com/event, if that is correct. And if it's not, AJ will be kind enough to tell me. Again, Monday, October 21st, 5 to 7 p.m. at Padres Brewing, an unplugged show. So it's going to be hopefully, as I said, a conversation about a Vikings team that at the very worst is going to be 5-1. Best case, TJ Hawkinson is back. We can talk about that, and we can also talk about a big Vikings win against the Detroit Lions.
It's actually go to scorenorth.com/party.
Party. I knew it was something like that.
Party.
I knew it was something.
Partying at party.
Thank you. I got it. And I hope you're there too. Let's talk special teams.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the good. The Wild 1 for 3 on the power play tonight. They get the Zuccarello goal, which actually ends up because of the late Zach Werenski goal being the game-winning goal from Boldy and Kaprizov. I initially thought that Eriksson Ek had tipped it in for his second goal, but he did not. I'm not positive if Zuccarello was absolutely shooting the puck or sort of a passing shot, which would be completely Matt, so that wouldn't be surprising. But, that first power play. So here's one thing. On that power play in particular, again, they had 3 of them and scored on 1. That power play in particular, AJ, they controlled the puck most of the time. So the first power play group never came off the ice. Now, if they don't have to chase the puck down, that's absolutely fine, and that's how that worked out, I think, for the majority of that. But yeah, that first power play with what you got: Eriksson, Ek, Zuccarello, Boldy out there, and Faber is the quarterback, and Kaprizov's on the right point. There is no reason why that power play unit against good or bad teams should not be extremely effective.
Yeah, I mean, and you saw that in the third period on the goal. I mean, the passing is this is exactly what I've been begging for the past, I feel like 2 or 3 seasons now. You watch all these other teams, and it's constant movement. It's a guy holding the puck for maybe 2 seconds max, then he finds somebody else in the same color sweater. This was exactly what we've been needing. In the past, it's kind of like, okay, let's kind of float to the top here, and I guess you're open, let's give it to you, and now maybe let's work it below the wall. It was purposeful, meaningful, zippy passing. It drew the Blue Jackets out of position, and that's what led to the goal. I mean, the passing, it wasn't just kind of the swing over the top either. Zuccarello and Kaprizov linked up on that kind of bank off the end wall. Just using the tools that you have, it does wonders. And when you have the skill that you have on that power play unit, there's no reason why it shouldn't look like that every time. I think the biggest issue for them and what we saw for the first 2 periods on their first attempt or two was they had trouble just entering and setting up the zone, which kind of hampered them. But when they got it set up, when they had an opportunity to really get to work, I mean, they looked miles ahead of anything that the penalty kill unit for the Blue Jackets had. If they put on a clinic, that's exactly what I want to see. That is telling me that they might even improve, because last year was a pretty solid power play.
Yeah, that wasn't the problem. Yeah,
it might even improve now. The penalty kill, we'll have to talk about that, but the power play looked terrific on that third period goal.
If Boldy plays like he played tonight, and again, just to be fair, he did play very well at times a year ago, but if he plays like he did tonight, I think it's inevitable that they're going to improve, because if he's got that consistency, like, it's opening night, so I hesitate to get, again, too excited or too concerned about things. But I will say this: it's Columbus, and he came to play. And I don't know that everybody came to play for this entire game. Again, that second period was really lethargic, I thought. Yeah. But, yeah, I think you're probably right. And the power play, when you look at their ability to move the puck. Now, it was funny because right before the goal, I was getting slightly annoyed, and the fans, of course, were yelling, "Shoot, shoot!" It did seem like they were on the verge of overpassing, but back to what you said, they also basically rope-a-dope the Blue Jackets into a place where they didn't want to be and scored. All right, so
and
the penalty,
really quick on that before we get to the penalty kill is,
of course.
I understand people wanting to shoot, and I even hear watching the game was like, Boldy, why didn't you pull the trigger there? But the thing is, you gotta expect and look from his angle. That is probably sealed up. There's probably 2 or 3 guys in front of him. There's no way to get that to the front. They know what they have on that penalty or that power play unit. Them holding onto the puck there for an extra 2-3 seconds and evaluating for the pass to extend that possession is much more valuable, especially given how much time is left on that power play, than any shot that they're going to generate from that opportunity. So I get wanting to see the shot, but give it a second to just pan out, because you see what they can do. They can move the puck, get a different look, reset, and get the look that they want, and then it ends up being a goal.
And shots get blocked so much now too. Okay, penalty kill, awful. A year ago, I think they were 30th, if I'm not mistaken, in the entire league. They were absolutely brutal. Jack Capuano was hired as an assistant coach during the offseason, brought into John Hines' staff. Jack Capuano has been the main guy on the penalty kill. The penalty kill, not surprisingly, was a major point of emphasis in training camp. They worked on it a ton. I felt at times tonight, I'm going to try and be as fair as possible, okay?
Okay.
I felt at times tonight it looked like it was a work in progress. I felt at times, and they have changed it. They I think what they did was, I think they flushed the old penalty kill and changed it. But it also did not look perfect. Now, I will say the old cliche is true. Your best penalty killer is your goaltender, and Gus made some really nice saves. But it doesn't feel like what we saw tonight is indicative of what they've talked about, which is basically being more aggressive, trying to get the puck out, potentially taking chances because they were so passive a year ago. But what were your thoughts on what you saw in game one of 82 from a new look penalty kill?
And that's the biggest thing I think from, I don't want to get too overbearing and like commit
Right.
to an opinion here on things, because everything it's just game one. The speed, for instance, like for as good as Jarrett Spurgeon looked against the Blackhawks in that one game where he had 2 goals on like 7 shots and was kind of all over the ice, it's a different speed going from preseason to the regular season. You saw that tonight, because frankly, like, did he have a bad game? No. But was it a great game? Definitely not. Same thing with the penalty kill. Work in progress, I think, is the right term to label that as, because it definitely was not good. But I think they did show a little promise at times, because they did suffocate the puck carrier at different points. But also it seemed like then, because of that, the pressuring player then got lost on our position, so they were scrambled to get back and find that form again. We'll have to see. I would love to see, after a week or two of games, them go against a top end power play unit, just to really have that test of, okay, how good is this thing going to be? Right now, I'm going to need to see them shore things up a little bit more. I'm fine with being aggressive and really pressuring the puck carrier, because if you want to do that, frankly, you're going to get probably an opportunity here or there to go the other way and get a shorthanded goal. But
yeah, I like that.
You have to kind of read the situation too. It's a night-to-night thing.
Right.
If a power play stinks, you know what? Fine, stay put. They're not going to score. It's 2 minutes off the clock. If it's a bad team, you're probably going to be up anyways. That's 2 minutes that you get closer to the end of the game for 2 points. But if it's a good team, yeah, maybe you do have to take some risks. Maybe you do have to step up and really get your sticks in there. And who knows how that ends up for you. But tonight, it definitely wasn't probably where they wanted it to be.
Yeah, it's probably going to take some time. I mean, we can't. It's probably not fair to pass a judgment unless it's just horrendous. On Saturday, for instance, against the Kraken, until about 2 weeks in. So, yeah, as James said, this is the first game, the penalty kill and the power play for the new. Well, it's a new PK. I don't think it's a new power play necessarily. Yeah. They'll evolve and get better. All I see is promise. I got the stat sheet here. Let's go through some interesting stats before we wrap this show up. First of all, face-offs. All right. So Eriksson Ek had a monster game. He had 3 shots. He had a goal. He had 5 hits. The Wild was credited with 14 hits. Nobody had more than 1. Other than Joel Eriksson Ek, who had 5, and he was 11 for 9 in the faceoff circle. Marco Rossi, who I didn't notice much tonight, and the first line actually in 5-on-5. I don't know about you. Kirill had a great turnaround shot in the second period, and Kirill finished with 3 shots on goal. But I mean, that was definitely not a Kirill game for the most part. Like he's going to be far superior to that. Marco Rossi in the faceoff circle was 6 of 4. Hartman, who centered Trennan and Foligno on the third line, was 7 of 7. Freddie Gaudreau, who was on the fourth line, was 4 of 4. Merit Hustadinov, who actually is the center officially, at least on the depth chart or on the line chart, for that fourth line, 1 of 4. Sort of interesting because his forte is face-off. So Merritt not having a great night in the face-off circle, which I would guess is not going to become a trend.
No, and I would wonder too, because on that fourth line, if you're going to have Husnudinov and Gaudreau, I'm curious as to maybe the approach there, because you can send your guy in. If you have two like face-off capable players, that first guy can be aggressive. Just super aggressive, and it's like, okay, we're going to kick you out. And then you bring in the second guy, maybe more conservative, and maybe that was Merritt's role at times, where Freddie goes in and he's like, I'm just going to, maybe I can win it, but then, okay, I get tossed. Merritt comes in, and then it's like, well, okay, if I encroach here, if I jump too early, I want to say it's a delay of game technically now. So
Yeah.
he has to, hesitate a little bit. So that can maybe throw him off and hurt his numbers. But yeah, definitely weird because out of everybody tonight, he was the only guy who took faceoffs who was in the negative. I think Matt Boldy won a draw.
He won a draw.
And I think Zuccarello actually
He
won one
did.
as well.
Very good. You're passing the test. 28 of 53.
Yeah.
Or
So
I'm sorry. No, wait. My bad. 31 wins, 28 losses, 53%. Columbus was 47%. So that's not a bad night.
No.
But Hustadinov's definitely a guy that you don't expect to be the one guy in the negative on the face-off wins and losses. Block shots. The Wild had 17. Get this. So 17 block shots, okay? Mm-hmm. Brodin had 2. Spurgeon, in his first game back in forever, had 3 in 17 minutes and 22 seconds of ice time. Jake Middleton, who played 20-44, which I believe, as I scan this quickly, led the entire team because Brock was at 2019. Jake Middleton had 6 block shots. That's giving it up for the cause there, AJ. Giving it up for the cause.
I'm sure it's a little easier to jump in front of some of these when it's game 1 instead of, game 74 in late February, early March or something like that. But God, that's not easy to do. I mean, when you look at it here, and I think you're right when it came to time on ice. Jake Middleton led the way with 22-14, Brodin with 22-08. Those are the only 2 players that eclipsed the 20-minute mark.
Oh yeah, yep. I looked at the wrong thing. Yes.
Sorry, no.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
saying Brock Faber, from what I'm looking at 24-57.
Or 57. Yep. So I looked at the 5-on-5, which was 2019 for Brock. You're right. 24-57. Jake 22-14. Spurgeon 19-36.
I'm also saying Joel Eriksson Ek 19-56. I mean, that's a lot of time out there for Ecker.
Yep, he in fact the official sheet has him at 1949, Kirill at 1829. But yeah, so Brock again led the team. It's incredible. 24-57. This guy, I keep hearing these and I mean it's not like widespread, but I have heard some concern about Faber sophomore slumps. Am I a moron for thinking he's impervious to a sophomore slump? I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to have a few bad games, and I'm not saying that his statistics, his points might dip. They might dip. I don't know, but I mean, Sportsnet likes to worry about a lot of things. I don't. Brock Faber. I mean, the way he plays the game, unless he, I was going to say unless he gets hurt, but it turned out the dude played with broken ribs last year. He's not to me a sophomore slump guy.
No, and I think the system that they have set up too, if people stay healthy, I think it's like, I just don't think it can happen. They have too good of a 2 top pairing on the blue line to like really allow him to slump.
But I mean,
I did have a slight scare. I want to say it was Foligno. They kind of had they ran into each other while bodies got tangled up. And because he went off laboring, and I don't know how much you paid attention to that or saw that, but seemed like he came out and was fine. But my immediate thought was like on the replay I saw on T was kind of leg/knee to the hip lower.
No, I didn't see
area.
That. So Brock did?
Yeah, he got tangled
up. I didn't see that.
With a Blue Jackets player, and Foligno coming in to assist. They collided.
Oh, okay.
This was in the first 3 minutes of the game. So he went off to the bench, and you could tell he was wincing and kind of laboring. And I was like, oh my gosh, did he just do something to the rib or like a hip or something like that? He came out and was fine. I wanted to keep an eye on that the rest of the way, at least for the rest of the week, and to kind of see does he take a hit and wince a little bit more? Because then we know the sign now. He obviously did that last year, and it's like, okay, now he's willing. We know he's going to play hurt and all this stuff. But I just think this guy, how he plays the game, the mental fortitude, the pure sheer talent that he has, mixed with he's going to be paired with a guy like Brodin, and then behind him when they don't have to rely on just that pairing this year. As of right now, they've got the Middleton Spurgeon pairing behind them.
Those are great pairings.
It's great pairings. I don't see a way this guy can slump. I just don't.
Well, he just doesn't play a game that's really open to slumps. Like if he was just an offensive defenseman who was going to rush the puck and was always questionable defensively, those guys can slide back. But I mean, he also plays, and he's so incredibly mature. Like, what's he going to do? Start partying? He just doesn't strike me as that type. So, yeah, I mean, if there's a guy that I'm not concerned about slumping, and, his stats, if his stats go down, it doesn't mean he's slumping. Your stats can go down, especially at the blue line. I got a question for you. I got two more things, two more topics for you. On the Columbus goal by Van Riemsdyk that was challenged, and I think that would have made it 2-1 Blue Jackets at the time.
Yes.
And the Wild challenged it, and it was very, very crystal clear that Van Riemsdyk, who is a genius in front of the net, had bumped Gustavsson. Why? Correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm missing some type of interpretation of the rule. But why? How do you, with 4 officials on the ice, not see that and call it no goal and let the Blue Jackets challenge if they want? Now, they would have lost, and I don't think they would have challenged it. But what about that? Like, I was watching it live. I'm in the press box, and that goal is like, I'm pointing down. It's literally down there. So I had a good view of it live, and I immediately said, that's not going to count. Mm-hmm. Like, what? Like, have we just gotten lazy? Why would you force a team to use a challenge where it's going to take a 2-minute penalty if, and I mean, we've seen bad calls on challenges before, so it's not like beyond the scope that they could have screwed that call up. They didn't. But why wouldn't you call that no goal? Because the goaltender went flying. Like, it wasn't I was talking to someone up here between periods about it, and the goaltender, Gustavsson went flying. Like, he fell backwards. Like, that was not an ordinary, I'm going to make the save. That was, I got tripped. I'm perplexed as to why you wouldn't just wave that goal off. And if Columbus wants to challenge it, fine. But, and again, I was talking to someone about this. You force the Wild to use a challenge they shouldn't have had to use. Like, that was not a goal. That was interference. That was textbook. Yeah. I feel like if replay was not a thing, that goal immediately gets waved off, but we allow it to stand. Why? In that case.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because like on the initial play in real time, it's like, okay, Gus goes down. That he got pushed, he got tripped, something along those lines. What's the issue? Why is there no call? But then he didn't really react. I didn't really see too many players react, and Gustavsson maybe was just like too in the zone or whatever. But usually I feel like you see not maybe the Curtis Joseph of rip the mask off, go over, slip and trip the referee, but usually they get in the ref's face and it's like, right. Hey, that's interference. Where is the call? Why are we not whistling? There was really no reaction there, so maybe the refs just were like, okay, I guess maybe not. And by that time, by the time they conference, but even then, you have 4 guys. That's 4 sets of eyeballs. Somebody has to be watching that. Well, and if you're not watching the goal there, what are you looking at? But it was clear as day. He came through. That should not be the Wild's challenge to issue. That should be the Dean's job on the Blue Jackets bench. Hey, I guess we have to go. It was so weird because sometimes you also see it where the goaltender interference. It's the same thing as like what's a catch in football. Sometimes we just know.
No one knows, but
nobody knows. But
that's when you wave it off, and then you said, if Dean wants to, I don't think the Blue Jackets would have challenged it. And no. I think here's what's sort of a telling sign about that entire thing. The referees very quickly went over to John Hines. Like, it's like they sort of knew he's going to challenge this, and it's like, yeah, he's going to challenge it because you all just watched the goaltender get tripped. I mean, the Wild won. It ended up being okay, but I mean, ultimately with the late Werenski goal, it could have been absolutely huge. And so I feel like the referees have slipped into they can challenge it. It's like, okay, that's fine. But in that case, it was a pretty crystal clear. The last thing I've got before we say goodnight is this. So Game 2 is Saturday night against the Seattle Kraken here at the X. The Wild then embarks on a 7-game road trip. I'm going to try to phrase this as carefully as possible because I don't want to be too filled with hyperbole, despite the fact that our jobs are being filled with hyperbole. How important is getting 2 more points because of that trip? Because I mean, a 7-game trip is what, 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Like they're gone for 2. Like I think they're not home again until November.
they're not home until the month, the calendar flips over to another month. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can assure. I mean, road games are different. I don't think that you can assure that they're going to be great on the trip. I don't think you can assure that they're going to be bad. I saw the Kraken play their opener. They were the first game of that ESPN triple header a couple of days ago against the Blues. They scored a couple of goals and then gave up 3 quickies and lost. I don't think the Kraken are great, but how important do you think it is just to bank those two additional points too? Because to go back to this, we've talked about this. The Wild got off to a crappy start, and again, they beat the Panthers 2-0 on opening night. They got off to a terrible start. Dean got fired, and just as importantly, when they tried to rally then after Hines got the job, they fell short in large part because they couldn't recover. So, with all of that in mind, how important do you think Saturday's game becomes to get 2 more points at home that are very gettable before you embark on a trip in which you're probably going to be happy if you win what? I mean, if you got 4 of the games, you'd probably be ecstatic. If you got 3, you probably wouldn't be surprised.
I'm similar to you. I don't want to go and say, that's like it's a do or die type of Saturday night, because it's not. It's game 2 of the season. So we're going to temper expectations and hyperboles here. But at the same time, it's a very winnable game. It is. Like the Kraken, to your point, I thought they looked good. I think the Kraken are always kind of they're flashy, they're young. They've got like Matty Beniers is always a tough guy to play against, and
Shane Wright I think looks good now too. It's taken him a couple of years, but that's not unusual.
No, yeah, and same thing. He's doing the same like almost Quentin Byfield type of thing where it took a year or 2, but now he's really starting to find his game.
Yeah,
their 1-2 punch at the center position is. It kind of makes me jealous, honestly, because I think they're going to be set for like the next decade. But when it comes to this Saturday, I would say I'd be pretty bummed texting you after the game. It's like, wow, how'd they drop that one?
Right.
Because you go on the road trip and maybe you get that first one on the road, but all of a sudden you have one bad loss, and then it's like, you know what? We're still not going back to Minnesota. We're still on the road here. And then you go to a different state, and it's like, okay, I guess let's play another one. It's a long road trip. Of the 3 or 4 that we're talking about, maybe being happy or ecstatic about getting, those have to be almost the first 2 or 3 games. Like that's gonna take a toll, I feel like, early in the season. So Saturday, I would say I would go to bed upset if they don't get a win.
I think it's pretty important.
I'm not gonna lose sleep over it, but I'll fall asleep upset that they didn't get a win.
So they, as I just said and you just said, they play the Kraken on Saturday. Starting on Sunday, they are at Winnipeg, division rival. They are at St. Louis, division rival. They go to Columbus. They go to Florida, so you got your defending Stanley Cup champions. They go to Tampa. They go to Philadelphia. Okay. And then they go to Pittsburgh. I don't like Pittsburgh, but Fleury almost certainly is going to start in his last game at Pittsburgh, which is going to be highly emotional. So, yeah. And then they finally come home and face the Lightning on Friday, November 1st. So the point being is if you want to avoid a slow start, Saturday's game becomes important. And as much as we can laugh about, it's the second game of the season, you also think, okay, but what happened last year when you got, when you basically buried yourself? I mean, they missed the playoffs based on that. I mean, there's no question about it. They missed the playoffs based on how they played at the start. So anyway,
yeah, it's so tough.
It's very interesting to me.
Those losses early in the season, I know it's been I don't want to take a shot about age here or anything, but it's been a while since you've been in school. Me, not as long, but still it's been, a handful of years here.
Yeah. You go right ahead, take a shot.
But that first test or whatever the year, you get the semester, you want to get a decent grade, because if that first test grade comes back, you got a 64 out of 100.
Yeah. You're buried.
You're buried. Because then the rest of the year, it's like, oh my God, I gotta this has got to be an A, and this has got to be an A. And how many ever A's you get back to back to back? It's like, oh, I've aced every single test since the first one. I'm still sitting at a 73% in the class. What's going on here? It's so much easier to start up top and have that confidence of like, okay, I have some room to work with, rather than I don't want to be playing catch up from day one. Like that first pop quiz, that's this Saturday. That's this first road trip.
I love where you're going with this.
You got to get some points. You have to.
I love that. That's a great comp, man. You always got the good comps. You always got the good.
Well, with both my parents as teachers, like that was etched into my brain as a
I like it. I like it.
You got to do good.
See, in my case, I just skip classes then. Like if it didn't go well, it's like screw it. I'm just going to skip class. But that was me. I mean, my parents weren't teachers either. So anyway, that's enough from us. The Wild opens with a 3-2 win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Again, we'd like to thank our sponsor for the show, our friends from Stoked Barbecue Pellets. If you are a grill person, you will love Stoked. Check them out, and you can find them, again, at all 22 Fratelloni's hardware and garden stores. He's AJ. I'm Judd. We'll be back probably very soon with another edition of Judd's Hockey Show.